Can running actually damage your heart? Can it wreck your kidneys? And is morning training really better than evening?
13 brand new studies just dropped in the first quarter of 2026, and the answers might surprise you.
Let's break down the latest science on running. We're going to start with the question that worries every runner. Is long-term marathon running bad for your heart?
A study published in JAMA Cardiology, one of the most prestigious cardiology journals in the world, tracked recreational marathon runners for a full decade. They specifically measured troponin T levels. That's the protein your heart releases when it's under stress.
It's the same marker doctors use to diagnose heart attacks. And after 10 years of regular marathon racing, these runners showed no adverse right ventricular remodeling whatsoever.
The troponin spikes after each race were real, but they were transient.
Your heart bounces back. 10 years of pounding the pavement and the right ventricle is structurally fine. But what if you go even further?
A study in the European Journal of Applied Physiology specifically examined ultramarathon runners. They measured central blood pressure and arterial stiffness across different age groups. Ultramarathon participation has been exploding in recent years, and the concern has always been that extreme distances might accelerate vascular aging. The data on cardiovascular health in this population has been genuinely mixed until now.
Now here's one that doesn't get nearly enough attention.
A review published in the Journal of Applied Physiology examined kidney injury risk during prolonged endurance running. It turns out that marathon and ultramarathon runners commonly show elevated biomarkers for acute kidney injury after their races.
These are the same markers that would raise alarm bells in a hospital setting. The good news is that it's almost always transient and resolves on its own without treatment. But rare serious cases of clinically significant kidney injury have been documented. The takeaway?
Hydration strategy and pacing discipline matter way more than most recreational runners realize.
Alright, let's shift to training. What actually predicts a fast marathon time?
A study published in Sports Medicine analyzed data from Boston Marathon runners, looking at training intensity distribution. They broke it down into steady-state runs, quality sessions, interval training, and cross-training. They also examined how changes in training volume and frequency in the weeks leading up to the race affected performance.
The takeaway is clear. It's not just about logging miles.
How you distribute your training intensity across different zones, and how you manage your taper and frequency changes before race day, matters enormously for your finishing time.
And here's a truly fascinating finding.
Researchers at the University of Florida published a study showing that morning endurance training produced dramatically superior performance adaptations compared to afternoon training. The morning trained group saw a 132% increase in endurance capacity.
The afternoon group? Just 45%.
And here's what makes it really interesting.
The morning group was training at lower absolute workloads.
They did less total work but got better results.
The mechanism came down to increased mitochondrial enzyme activity, greater citrate synthase activity, and favorable muscle fiber type shifts.
This identifies exercise timing as a biologically relevant factor in how your body adapts to training. Staying on the training theme, a study published in Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise confirmed something many experienced coaches have long believed.
Regular long runs are directly associated with better running economy durability.
They compared well-trained male runners who practiced regular long runs versus those who didn't, carefully pair-matched for overall performance level. The long run group maintained their running efficiency significantly better during a demanding 90-minute treadmill test.
If you've been skipping your weekly long run, this is your sign to bring it back. Now let's talk injuries, because this next study is a game changer.
The British Journal of Sports Medicine published what might be the most comprehensive running injury study of the year.
911 adults, 47% female, 58% runners, followed for a full year using Fitbit devices and weekly injury questionnaires with orthopedic diagnoses. They found that a higher peak ankle inversion moment actually decreased your odds of developing Achilles tendinopathy by a striking 67%. But a lower peak ankle external rotation angle more than doubled your risk. And simply running more volume increased your odds by 67%. This gives clinicians and coaches concrete biomechanical targets to work with for injury prevention. What about the shoes on your feet? A study in the American Journal of Sports Medicine tested whether minimalist footwear and a softer running technique could reduce running-related injuries in recreational endurance runners. The result was nuanced. Minimalist footwear changed where injuries occurred, shifting them from one location to another, but it did not reduce the overall injury rate. So if you're switching to minimalist shoes expecting fewer injuries, the evidence says think again. On the other end of the footwear spectrum, those carbon-plated super shoes were tested in 15 highly trained female and 15 highly trained male runners at multiple intensities. The finding? Sex and isolated anthropometric measurements did not explain who benefits from advanced footwear technology and who doesn't. The response is highly individual and we still can't predict it from simple body measurements. Let's talk nutrition. A randomized controlled trial tested 31 consecutive days of exogenous ketone supplementation in recreational runners. They measured running performance, cognitive function, metabolism, body composition, hemodynamics, and mood. The ketone trend has been massive in endurance circles over the past few years, and this is one of the longest and most comprehensive randomized controlled trials we've seen examining its effects in runners. Meanwhile, a major review published in the Journal of Nutrition is pushing back on current carbohydrate fueling guidelines. The 2016 ACSM recommendations cap intake at 90 grams of carbs per hour for exercise lasting more than 2.5 hours. But field observations show that elite endurance athletes are now routinely experimenting with 120 to 200 grams per hour. This review revisits the underlying metabolic science, from liver and muscle glycogen sparing to plasma glucose maintenance and whole-body carbohydrate oxidation rates, asking whether the decade-old guidelines need a serious update. Can artificial intelligence write your marathon training plan? A study published in BMB Oxford put this to the test. They evaluated whether AI-generated programs adhere to established training principles including pacing, volume progression, and periodization. As AI-powered fitness apps flood the market, the question of whether these tools are actually safe and effective matters more than ever for the millions of recreational runners using them. And one more for the road. An updated integrative framework for the record-eligible sub-2-hour marathon was published in the European Journal of Applied Physiology. It synthesizes the latest evidence on VO2 max requirements, biomechanical efficiency, nutritional strategies, psychological factors, and shoe technology. Eliud Kipchoge broke 2 hours in a controlled setting back in 2019. The question now isn't whether someone will do it in a record-eligible race. It's when. So what's the bottom line from all this research? Running in 2026 is safer, smarter, and more optimized than it has ever been. The science is moving incredibly fast. Train in the morning if you can. Do your long runs consistently. Pay attention to your ankle biomechanics. Fuel properly with carbs and stay critical of ketone hype. Don't worry about your heart, it can handle the miles. And maybe let the AI write your training plan, but double check its work.